Hi, this is Takuma Nakata. I'm an interaction designer based in Kyoto, and in today's tutorial, I'm gonna explain the basics of how to start playing with DX11 Particle Pack, and this will be the result for today. So this is the visual that we're gonna reach, and this DX11 Particle Packs is very powerful, and you can do quite a lot with it, and it's all in real time. And depending on your GPU spec, you can actually do more than what you can do in for example, like X particles. So I believe it's super powerful, and it's also related. It's also using the DX11 and the dynamic buffer thing that I explained in a previous tutorial. So if you haven't watched that one, please watch that one as well. It will give you a deeper understanding of what we're doing here. But yeah, so let's get started. So for today's tutorial, you'll need to install this DX11 Particles Pack. This one is made by TMP. And so please install the version you're using and put it inside the packs folder of the vvvv version you're using. So like this one. And also to be clear, this particle packs is also inside the store. So if you're using it for commercial use or like any projects, please like buy the license for commercial use. Okay, so I mean, to support the artist who's creating all these packs. Okay, so for before getting into my tutorial, there's a really nice sample video from the vvvv team, and a lot of cool like VV artists actually made a sample visual when this pack was released, and this is really cool, and it's really also a good reference on what you can actually do using DX11 particles. So if you haven't watched it, please watch it, and it's inside the DX11 particle page. So I'll put this link below. Okay, so let's get started. Okay, so as always, I'll just start doing creating the render and everything. What's wrong? Yeah, this sometimes happens. Okay, now it's better. I'll just start creating the basic nodes that I need. I'll put the inspector here. I don't like having wrench state and available, and I'll put this 5, and also aspect ratio to make sure that fits the video. For today, we're also creating per nature, so we will have to keep our eyes on the frame rate. If it's going too high, it means that it's starting to damage your computer, so keep it right. And also we need a camera for this. Okay, so this is the basic setup. Oh, and I also want the axis grid just to be sure that I don't get lost in XYZ axis. Okay, now everything is working. And as always, when you start playing with vvvv, it's always good to check the girl power, and this is where all the sample patches are. So in DX11 Particle, there's a lot of different examples patches. So if you open up one of these, you can see a lot of like ways to use it, like lines, instance. So a combination with instance noodle, you can actually make a geometry out of this particle pack as well. And yeah, there's also tutorials. So if you're interested in making custom emitter or modifier selectors, you can also follow this tutorial. But instead of that, I mean mostly for DX11 particle packs, the way that I learned was to go into the modules, so DX11 nodes and modules, and all the there's different types of nodes inside DX11, and it's sorted right here in this folder. So for example, today we're going to use I think we're using the Fung directional particle effector. So if you've already played with vvvv, you should know what Fung direction is. So you can actually do that particle stuff inside it. And I don't know what it's doing, but if you double click, there's a lot of help patch. Okay, this is what's happening. So you can shade each particles, or you can create a sprite. So the sprite is like a point. It's a very light one. So by using this one, not something's wrong. Not showing. Yeah, I don't know what's happening, but I mean it should work on your computer. So just discover these sample patches. Okay, now I see something is wrong, so I'll just save this one to desktop. vvvv. Yeah, sometimes this kind of weird thing happens, but it's quite rare. So yeah, but learning particle packs, basically if you open up these modules, there's a lot of difference. Like today we're going to use this dynamic buffer emitter. So if you open up the help patch, it would explain everything, what it's about, and also we're going to learn about the modifier as well. So if you're interested in, for example, adding turbulence or like color by distance or like force or friction and things like that, all the modifiers are inside here. And yeah, so if you're interested in learning it, just open this folder and check all the help patch. It's very nice that they have help patch for each node so that you can easily learn. Okay, so let's get started. So today we're using this dynamic buffer emitter. And what I usually do with the DX11 pack is I don't write everything by myself, because I mean I know that there's a lot of sample patch. So for today I'll just drag and drop this one, copy and paste and delete it, copy it here, and I'll just paste here. I basically play with the DX11 Particle Pack like this so that it doesn't take too much time for me to develop a visual. Just make it bigger. Okay, just in case I'll put this here. Today I want to use a box, so I'll make this to a Phong directional particle effect. With particle packs you can only use these ones with particle effects, so choose this one. I don't need the blend and halo. Instead of that, I'll just put a box geometry to Phong directional, and later on I'll have to change the scales, so I'll just do it right now. Okay, so at the moment there's nothing. Okay, so let's start explaining a little bit. I mean, this setup, particle system setup, is, I mean, this one is like the core node that you have to use. I don't really understand, but it has to be there, so I just put it there. And without this, nothing works. I can't connect this to any place, so you need this one. You can name your particle system and things like that, but I won't go that deep. Instead of that, today I'll start describing how to start emitting a particle. And for that, first thing you have to do is you need to give him a position buffer, and this will be the position where the particle will start emitting. So as we did in yesterday's tutorial, this is a position buffer, so I'll put a dynamic buffer 3D, and here I'll just use linear spread and cross and put it there. Make sure the spread count is high enough, and vector 3D join. And for today I'm gonna put it to X and Z because it's more easy to understand if it's going upwards. Okay, so now I see something, but it's really hard to see. That's because this color here is gray. So put it higher. I'll also change the light direction. Okay, now we can see it. It's better. But I think we're missing, I mean, from yesterday, linear spread should generate a grid, but at the moment we're not seeing anything. And that is because we need to specify like how many particles we're emitting. And so there's two. There's one emitter size, and there's another one called emit count. And the difference between these two is emit count is the amount of particle you're generating every frame. So one frame, 100 particles. And emitter size is the total amount of particle that you're emitting. So for example, if you want 100 particles per frame, and your frame rate is 30, then if you want every particles to emit every frame, then you would need 100 times 30, which would be 3000. And for today, first of all, to make the grid visible, I need at least 1200 particles emitting every frame, so I'll put that in the emit count, and now we see all the particles emitting. But at the moment it's doing nothing. And another important tip with Particle Pack is as I just explained, Particle Pack emits particles every frame, which means if you're working on 120 frame, that it means you have to, if you want every frame to emit a particle, then you have to 1200 times 120, which will be quite a lot of quite high value. So when playing with Particle Pack, I try to specify the frame rate, which you can do using main loop. And here in default, the maximum foreground FPS is 120. So if for today's tutorial, I'll lower this down to 30 so that you already see that the frame rate in this system has lowered it down to constant 30 frame. So now if I want particles to emit every frame, I just have to make sure that I'll multiply this with 30, and I put it here, which would be 3600 particles. Oh, no, 36,000 particle, which is still quite a lot. Okay, and so this is the basic setup for the particle packs. And so let's start adding an effect on it. And by doing that, I think this is a really cool part with this particle pack. I mean, so if you connect modifiers to this group, you can already easily have effect going on. So let's see how it works. So I would like to have a turbulence. It's a noise, and I want to connect this one, but there's a lot of values that I have to make sure that I know, and I don't want to connect everything all the time. So what I'll do is I'll open up the sample patch, just copy this one and delete it, and put it back here, copy paste, and connect it. I like the structure. Okay, so now we got a turbulence, but for some reason it's not showing anything, and that is because I haven't specified the lifespan of this particle. So you have to tell this emitter like how long will the particles stay there, and at the moment in default it's 0. So for that I'll need a dynamic buffer, but lifespan is a value, so I don't need to use the 3D one. Rather than that, I use this one. This dynamic buffer value, and I'll connect the lifespan, and this one I'll change it to 1 second for now. Let's see. Okay, so now the particle has noise on it, and it's emitting 1200 particles per frame, but I mean yeah, so I see a noise, but I mean, this is not what I want. And there's two reasons for that. One, I haven't added a velocity, and I want this particle to go upwards. So for that, to do so, I'll add something to velocity. I mean, you can also connect to force. The way they act the same. I've heard there's a difference between these two, but I haven't figured that out, so I'm not going to explain there. But here, just connect this dynamic buffer, and for velocity, it's 3D. So I add this one and make it go up, maybe 0.5. So this is the y-axis. So now all the particles are going upwards. But however, I made a wide box, and I don't like the fact that all the boxes are like interpreting each other. And there's a really nice node called heading. Oh, for some reason my OBS crashed, but anyways, there's this really nice node called heading, and what this guy does is it makes the each particle's point the velocity look at the velocity rotation, so it automatically rotates to the angle that this turbulence is, I mean the velocity is on each particles. And at the moment the I think depth buffer is wrong, so I need to turn on the depth buffer on the render, and to do so just click the render and turn on this depth buffer mode to standard, and by doing this you should see each particles, I mean you should get the depth data, so now we see everything is working fine. Okay, and yeah, so we're getting close to our goal for today, and the last node that I want to introduce is called scale by lifetime, and this one is also a modifier, so just choose not the advanced but just default one and press F1 to open up the sample patch, and here you should see what you can do using scale by lifetime, but so I won't explain that one. I'll just copy and delete this one and copy paste here, and I need to add another group. I don't know why my computer is slowing down. I don't think it's the performance issue, I think it's the computer problem, hardware problem, but I'll just keep it like this. And what this guy does is, I'll just put it back to 1. It scales your particle depending on the time position. So now it's 1 second. So whenever it's 0.03 second, then it goes from 0 to 1 in 0.3 second. And then when it goes to 0.54, then it starts fading it out. So if I higher, for example, if I put this to 1, then it won't get small even though it finished emitting. And if I put this higher, then the starting point will be really slow, but smoothly gets bigger, and at the end gets big. But I want both sides to be small so that you don't really see where the particle is emitting from. So now you get kind of this result. And at the moment I don't like that it's only emitting for 1 second, so I'll just put this higher for 3 seconds. So now I have this really nice flow of particle emitting in, I'd say, in a block. Okay, so this is like the basic things that I wanted to do for today. And one more thing that I did for the visuals that I previously show is using pillow, and I think I used a constant particle effect rather than long directional. And by using this, I added a constant texture. I added this tune kind of texture on each particle to make it look cool. I like how it looks like. And then I changed the color by using HSL, not this one, color joint. Just put it to white, lower than the lightning, and I'll change the hue to something bluish. And I think I also changed the color of the background. Yeah. So yeah, this is what I did for the sample visual. I think the color is a bit different, but that's not a big problem. If you start tweaking with things here, you should be able to play around with Particle Pack. And I hope this tutorial helped you understanding how cool Particle Pack is and how easy it is. So as I told you at the beginning, if you're interested in learning it, just go to the packs folder and DX11 particles. Just go into this modules and check out what kind of modifiers, for example, they have. And turbulence and scale by lifetime should be here. And there's also scale by distance, or like rotate, or like math, scale fade. And I'm planning to make 2 more tutorials about this DX11 particle packs. And there's a lot more nodes that I really like and I couldn't explain in this tutorial. So please follow my YouTube channel if you're interested in following this. And yeah, that was it for today. I hope it helped you. Thank you for watching, and see you next time.